Hi everybody. So say hi to Cuddles, the new addition to the family.
We have not really have a name yet, really.
It's
So
probably going to be Cuddles because he loves to be with us. But
he loves to cuddle.
hey, if you have a better name, bring it on. Anyway,
I
we're
mean, his
still
other
choosing.
name is Paul because it's my dad's name.
Yeah, but Cuddles.
Anyway.
Anyway, let's move on.
He's just very cute.
So I had planned because I wanted to do a Rant video because I had planned to go into Star Wars, Disney, Kathleen Kennedy, and
Yeah.
identity politics. And it turns out that I was asked by one of you to do a video on Cleopatra.
You guys should have seen Julian's face when you read that comment.
The documentary
like,
on
"Ah."
Netflix. I was like, oh, that's perfect. Because I can mix all that together. So first I'm going to rant about that bullshit of a documentary that is Cleopatra on Netflix.
Honey, didn't you have like really good intentions of not being?
Yeah, but it pisses me off so much and fuck it. Anyway. So first of all, let me state that we're talking about a documentary, not a movie. Like when we look at the movie 300, they took some liberties with a bunch of stuff on Greek history. They stuck fairly closely to the story, at least the spirit of it, right? And yes, there was some inaccuracies, but it is a movie. Now that's different with the Cleopatra stuff because it's supposed to be a documentary, so much closer to history. But it was produced by Jada Pinkett Smith, so what do you expect? And so
I feel like I'm on the episode from The Critical Drinker.
by the way, go on YouTube and subscribe to the Critical Drinker. He makes video critics about movies. Is awesome. Anyway, he's from Scotland. He's really good. Anyway, because he's a writer himself and everything, so he makes some very good critics. But on that one, I'm gonna go a little bit deeper because it pissed me off to no end. There is a conspiracy theory, and I mean a bad one, not because some conspiracy theories are true. That one is. It's not quite the earth is flat, but honestly, it's pretty close to it. And there is that bad conspiracy theory going around within mostly the black American population that Egypt was a West Africa place. That all the people from a ruling class, especially on Cleopatra, are black and everything. It's like, no, Egypt was not the ones with the pharaohs and everything. Like that idea that it was a Western African state is insane. And Egypt has a long glorified history, so I can't go into all of it. But what we're going to talk about is Cleopatra. So that time in Egypt. And he got blasted. Why? Because they made Cleopatra into a black actress. And Cleopatra was not black. There is no other way to say it, but she was not a Western African type lady. So, let's go about the history of that period so you understand. So, when we talk about Cleopatra, we have to talk about Alexander the Great first. So, it's about 300 years prior to Cleopatra. And we're going to talk about Alexander the Great's father, Philip of Macedonia, who unifies Greece, right? Before that, you had city-state like Athens, Sparta, and stuff like that, and Philip of Macedonia. So, for the ones who don't know, and I'm sure in America you don't know where Macedonia is, although most people don't know, I'm guessing. Yeah, that's what I figured.
Why are you blasting me?
I'm not saying it's you, I'm just talking in general. Generalities, it's like general you, not... You don't know where Macedonia is. Anyway, it was the north of Greece. So you calculate like it's actually a place still called North Macedonia, like toward Bulgaria, all that area. So basically north of Greece, right? And Philip of Macedonia is the ruler, and he's going to unify Greece, which means he's going to come down and conquer all the city-states. From there, he decided to go toward Persia and basically the Mediterranean Sea area. He gets killed by his bodyguard. Is probably maybe directed by his wife. Actually, there's a long story there. Alexander the Great's mother.
Just be careful what you're saying about me not knowing certain things.
Exactly, my point.
History is advising you differently, my love.
Marriage. Anyway, so Alexander the Great takes over and he's going to conquer the world, as we know. By that, we mean he's going to actually conquer the Persian Empire and go all the way down. So, if you look at the Mediterranean Sea, right, you have Greece, and then below you have Libya, and there you have Egypt. And Alexander the Great is going to conquer all of that. one of his most trusted companion, a general in his army, called, I should have prepared for this podcast, Ptolemy, I can't remember how to pronounce it, honestly. So I'm a huge nerd when it comes to Greek mythology, so that's why I know a lot of the history. Gigantic nerd. I love Greek mythology, so I studied Greek history as well, but it's been a while, so I'm a bit rusty. So again, I don't prepare for the podcast, so that's what you get. One of his main guys, so his general's trusted companion, is going to actually take over where Egypt is right now and turn it into a gigantic kingdom, where he's going to take part of Libya, the entire thing, and he's going to make himself a pharaoh. Now, you have to understand, Ptolemy is Greek, so was Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great was, as he unified Greece and took over the world, right, was, for example, shaped into the leader that he was by Aristotle on the order of his father. So it's very much a Greek population. Mm-hmm. And as Ptolemy, so they're going to start with, it's called the Ptolemaic, I think. Anyway, I can't remember, I suck with names. Anyway, they take control of Egypt, and in order not to clash with the local population, they're going to adapt some of the things like the title pharaoh. Mm-hmm. They're going to build, they're going to respect the gods. They actually, after him, they're going to start marrying their sisters or stuff like that in the Egyptian tradition of the time, because of law on Osiris and Osiris, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. But it's very much you have really two countries in Egypt. You have the Greeks and you have the local population of Egyptians. You have to understand that the Greeks, and that's going to last all the way to Cleopatra, were considered Greek citizens in Greek cities, were obey Greek law, not Egyptian law. They had Greek structure, they had Greek education. Cleopatra spoke Greek first and was actually one of the few rulers who learned Egyptian. Yeah, she might have been the only one, maybe not the only one, but she was one of the very few that actually spoke the local language. All the other ones were Greeks. So you have to understand how this works. We're talking 2,300 years ago, and the ruling class, like all ruling class, started a dynasty, so they became kings and queens. And like they always do, especially around that time, they are very proud of their heritage. By the way, he was one of the most trusted general of Alexander the Great, so something to be proud of, right? So what they're going to do, and then they were very proud of their Greek heritage, mm-hmm. because they are Greek. So they're going to get there in Egypt. They were
like royal, right? So they're very...
Yeah, and at the time, he was part of the Greek Empire anyway. And you have to understand that at the time, Egypt went from being part of the Greek Empire straight into the Roman Empire. So Egypt was never Egyptian at the top. They were the local population, but at the top, it was Greek ruler for all the way from Alexander the Great to Cleopatra, was the last active ruler of that dynasty. And then the Romans took over, but they were basically either under Greek tutelage or Roman tutelage.
They didn't have truly their own...
No, they never had, during that period, they never had the local people. They were actually Greeks who annexed the country as part of the kingdom. So the ruling families, obviously being very, very proud of their lineage, are going to marry amongst Greeks only, and especially at the royal level. Yeah. And mostly marry between brothers and sisters and stuff. So they kept the bloodline going, basically.
And what do Greek people look like?
Yeah, well, they're not black, let me tell you that.
And that's not to say that there's any, like...
No, but you have to understand what they meant by Cleopatra was such a classical beauty. So, 300 years, well, there was about 15 rulers, something like that, between the first one, Ptolemy, until Cleopatra. It's only 15 rulers, not that much. They wanted to keep the Greek line going. So when they say she was a classical beauty, what they meant is she looked very Greek. By the way, she was famous for having a big-ass nose. But like not rectangular nose, but like a very angular nose. So if you see these coins where she's seen from the side, man, she had a bird nose. Like super angular at the base. I don't think we would necessarily call her beautiful in our society. But what they meant by that was a classical beauty. By that, they meant she was a Greek beauty style. Yeah. If you take Julius Caesar from the side and her, they basically have the same nose. She was very, very characteristically Greek. Yeah. There's just no way around it. She was not black. This was this was a full Greek society that happened to live in Egypt. They didn't mix with the
So
local people. And I'm not saying it's good or bad, by the way. I'm not judging. It's just, this
No,
is
but-
2,300 years ago. That's just the way it went.
Yeah, and it's also like there's one thing to have a story tell in a movie, and if you make a documentary, you have to be true to what happened. Like you cannot
Yes.
make the head
You can't
part
change history.
of the documentary black if the woman wasn't black. It's just
No.
not because there's anything wrong with being black or having a head
No,
person.
but
that
we're
is
not
black.
talking good or bad. We're talking
No,
history.
we're talking history, and it's a documentary where
And
they tell history.
Cleopatra was Greek. They call that Macedonian Greek because she comes from a Macedonian Greek himself, which was Ptolemy, the general of Alexander the Great. But really what they mean by that is mean Greek because it's exactly
But
the same
also,
place.
like, I'm sorry, but a documentary is not about, even if you want to bring up the point, like, representation, documentary is not the place for representation. It's storytelling of history.
there's no representation. She was not West.
No,
this
but you
is,
know, no, but I'm saying, like, they're going to say, like, oh, they want the representation in
That's not what they say. They actually, I heard phrases like she was culturally black,
Oh,
which is a
really?
bigger lie onto that one.
Oh,
It's
true.
just, no, what this is a conspiracy theory that I saw living in the US all the time within the
Really?
black American population, where they want Egypt to be a Western African
I
type
didn't
place.
even know that myth went around, honestly.
Oh yeah, you see it all the time. Oh yeah,
I'm
you
not
see-
American, so I didn't
Yeah,
know.
no, but you say it all the time there. And they were, by the way, there's Egypt prior to being conquered by Alexander the Great. And prior to that, you see a far different Egypt than you saw after being conquered by Alexander the Great. But Ptolemy created Alexandria. By the way, what do you think is called Alexandria? Put at a place of learning. It was really one of the lighthouses of the world at the time was Alexandria and everything. But that was under Greek tutelage. He was called a pharaoh because he was doing that to please the local population, not because he was in direct line of the one prior to him. So there's you have to understand, like, this is to Egypt. You have prior to Alexander the Great and after that. But the point of this is that Cleopatra is a direct descendant of a Macedonian Greek with a bloodline that stays within itself. So no, you cannot make her Western African black there. Just like I would be pissed if you put Shaka Zulu as a white guy.
Yeah. No, it's just not the way it is.
Or a dude who looks Latino or whatever. No, he was a Eastern, what we would call now, the Zulu nation is like Eastern South Africa.
Imagine if you make that whole like thing white, like you make all the tribes white and everything.
No, and
because-
in some movies like Genghis Khan in the 60s were played by John Wayne, which is the stupidest thing ever. First of all, it's a movie, so it's not as bad as a documentary. And yes, they were wrong. Yes. So let's not do that shit again.
Yeah, let's
but
not-
Again, this is not even a movie. This is a documentary, and just historically speaking, putting Cleopatra as black is fucking nuts. By the way, there were African, like black African queens, like the Queen of Sheba. So there were some very important queens we could make a documentary about. But instead of that, they had to go the Egyptian route because he has more clout, which in itself is very racist.
I was going to say that's really racist because you're denying the shine of true African queens that deserve their story to
There's
be told in
plenty-
a documentary because they're true African queens.
And then you just perverting history. So
Yeah.
I got pissed about the Woman King. I made a podcast about that because this is the dumbest shit ever. When you were glorifying slavers and turning them into anti-slavery people, where they were the first to trafficate their own people. They were giving their own people as slaves to a stronger empire, black, right next to them. So we have to stop with the thing of perverting history just to follow an ideology. It's not an ideology in this sense. It's just a bad conspiracy theory. Yeah. No, you can go back, like, not Cleopatra, not that time of Egyptian history. By the way, you can just go on Wikipedia, you'll see everything that I'm saying there. This is common knowledge. I learned this shit when I was 12. Like, yeah, and the nose and the thing, and like those are known facts. No, you don't get to do that. And you know what this is? This is identity politics. And the reason
that's dangerous.
The reason identity politics is the most dangerous thing there is out there. It has never worked. It only leads to war. So I wanted to make a Rant video on that for a while. I made a video about the show Obi-Wan, right? And I had some people saying it's not that bad and everything. Guess what? Who was right? Is there a season 2? No. You know why? Because they killed Star Wars. And that's what I want to talk about, really, is
they did, though.
Kathleen Kennedy got in there in Star Wars, because she's the head of Lucasfilm, right? She got in there, and this is an ideologue. This is someone who decided that the Force is female, and then we're going to get into that, because it's not enough. She's not trying to empower women. That's not true. She's trying to put men as weak buffoons in everything that she does, and have women be told by standing on the shoulder of weak men. That's her vision of the world. And that's exactly what she did with, for example, the show Obi-Wan. I remember at the time I said that actress Reva, who's playing the black, I can't remember the role she's playing, like, Reva is the name of the character, but she's playing, what is she? She has a specific role in the stuff. And they made the show about her, where she was a badass and every single man was a buffoon. I was like, you're going to kill that actress's career by doing that because of the pushback she's going to get. And guess what? I haven't seen her in anything after that show, because that show was a disaster where they made a mockery of Darth Vader and Obi-Wan Kenobi. It was a shit of a show. It was a shit show and a shit of a show. And guess what? He didn't do anything. He did extremely poor rating. They lost money, and there's no season 2. And I remember a comment saying, "Oh, it's because the writers could not do were not free to do their work." Bullshit. So actually, one of the writers. So what happened is simple. It's always the same thing. You have an ideologue, in that case Kathleen Kennedy, that comes in and decides the Force can only be about women. And it's not enough that women are on top, men have to be weak and buffoons. And she's going to hire...
That's the point that I never understand about the whole ideology, but okay.
She's going to hire people that think like her, and everybody below is basically either a moron or an incompetent bastard that has one job, is to obey Kathleen Kennedy. So the writer who actually wrote at least one, if not 2 episodes of Obi-Wan the show, had not watched the last movie with Obi-Wan. Because at some point he said that he didn't know that Obi-Wan Kenobi already knew that Anakin Skywalker was Darth Vader. Whereas it says it twice, shows it twice in the last movie. The writer did not know that. He was dumb enough to say that in an interview. What does that tell you? They tell you they hire incompetent people who have one job, to obey. So now, that identity politics, because that's what this is not about representation.
No.
This is about identity politics. Yes. Kathleen Kennedy just wants one thing. She wants to take everything where men have fun, and maybe she's incapable of having fun herself, so she wants to take it away. I don't think it's about representation or any of that. It's identity politics, and in that case, it's about reparation. What she wants is to take where men have fun, men build stuff that they enjoy, Star Wars, Pixar, Indiana Jones, and she's going to systematically destroy that. Because I don't think it's about empowering women. I think it's taking stuff away from men.
Yeah, so
you like this, we're going to make you pay for it because you've been oppressing women for 10,000 years, so we need reparations, which means we're going to take your stuff and make it ours.
So let's go a little bit in the reparation.
Versus representation.
Yeah, so can you explain that a little bit? Like, I think it's a very important point to understand where they come from and what their, I think, very toxic idea behind it is.
They are not interested in growing anything. For example, like, they have managed, so the easiest thing to do right now is, 10, 15 years ago, would have been to create things around Star Wars, Pixar, right? Marvel, and Indiana Jones. Those are things that are, and it's all 3 of them are Lucasfilm, right? And what you saw instead is them coming in and systematically gender swapping every single hero. Star Wars, every man was in the last iterations were buffoons that were replaced by stronger women. Rey replaced. It's the same story as the first one, except now it's Rey instead of Luke and everything. Indiana Jones, they're killing him off to put a woman instead of him. Pixar made it like so you understand, like, look at the disaster that this is turning into. Pixar had a movie about Buzz Lightyear. Okay, that has to be the easiest movie ever to make a success out of. We all know Buzz Lightyear, Toy Story, everybody wants to see that. He made $286 million. It cost more than that to make, so they lost a shit ton of money on that. You have to understand, speaking of that, that Super Mario Bros., the anime movie, Super Mario anime movie, made $1.3 billion. $1 billion more than Buzz Lightyear. How inept and incompetent can you be? To the point that, and it's not by design, but that shows you the structure of the company there now. That this is not about producing content. It's about producing an ideology and shoving it into everybody's throat.
All in the name of like, we need to have justice for the oppression we experience.
And it's not representation, it's reparation. What they want is they want to kill. By the way, you know, like there is a type of animal organism in nature that grafts onto a strong host and suck it dry until it dies. You know what it's called? A parasite. And that's what you get with gender identity. They managed to kill Star Wars, Pixar, Marvel, and Indiana Jones. And Star Trek, by the way. That is hard to do.
It's hard to do.
Under one company, Disney. That is really hard to do. You know how they're doing it? Gender identity, identity politics that include gender. Because what they're interested in is pushing an ideology instead of fucking making movies. And now they got rid of all those toxic men, all those people that were so involved into all those movies, to replace them by women in front of the camera and behind, because you need representation, where actually what you did is you took a successful host and you, as a parasite, drain it until it died. I'm sorry, that is not a success, and that does not make women in power of any of that. Kathleen Kennedy is a crazy ideologue who has one thing in mind, is to just make sure men lose. This is not about women winning. Because if it was about women winning, they would make good movies where we could go all see. Men don't give a shit. Look at gaming. Lara Croft, Tomb Raider. I played that. I played a woman the entire game. Guys don't give a shit. You know who cares? Ideologue, feminist women who says like, I need to have women that look like me in games. So now, by the way, now that they kill the movies, you know what the next target is? Gaming.
Yeah.
Dove, the soap, has now a commercial where they say we need more representation in gaming. What they mean by that is they mean ugly women, fat, and that they need a representation in gaming because it's too much of the stereotypical beauty. It's like, do you even play? Do you even game? Because that's not a huge population out there. It's like, and why is Dove getting into that? Why is a soap getting into gaming and the toxic culture of gaming? Don't play, create your own game. Like, I am tired of those people coming into the stuff we do, we're successful at, we're having fun with, and killing it without creating anything of value on the other side. Yeah. You know what you can do? Create good stuff. I'll go see you over there. And then you can put as much ideology as you want. But go create, stop coming on our side and killing the stuff.
But wouldn't that be women empowerment if you were like, okay, I'm going to make something, if you will, with a women head lead, produced by women, make it so good that it's for everybody. That you would say it's empowerment.
That's what we did.
In anything, I think in a way we put women in a very awkward position with men.
Pushback is gonna
I feel like actually it's creating a bigger gap between men and women.
Well, but that's what we saw. Like, by the way, there was a study that just came in showing that DEI, diversity, equality, inclusion training, like white guilt and everything, is creating more interracial issues at work instead of less. So the reason I'm pissed with all this is you kill Star Wars. Like a stuff I was such a fan. Indiana Jones, you're killing all my heroes, all the stuff I care about. And most of you out there don't care. So that's why most of the people out there, they're like, oh, it's not that bad. It's not that bad because you don't care. And which is fine. But how about you don't care about something else, that the stuff we geeks and nerds care about? Why can't you guys let us have our things that we built? Right? You have to remember Star Wars. There was a gap with no movies for 20 years. You know who kept Star Wars going and made it grow? Us, the fans. Because we bought lightsabers. There was comic books. There was like Comic-Con that started and people dressing up as Star Wars and everything. And why can't we have that? Why do you need to come into this and kill the host? You didn't grow anything. You killed it. Star Wars is gone. There's no interest. The new show is called The Acolyte, that of course Kathleen Kennedy is so happy about, has 0 male protagonist. 0. They come out saying like we need to fight the patriarchy in Star Wars, like there is patriarchy in Star Wars right now.
Who the fuck cares? We're just trying to watch a movie.
By the way, about aliens.
Like, yeah, like it's a movie about aliens.
Like that's why they don't make it about black or white, because there's so many blue people that it's hard to do.
No, but anyway. Like I'm not a nerd, and I'm beyond normie. Like I don't even watch movies, and even I'm like, dude, it's a movie about aliens. People fight with
lightsabers.
With lightsabers
and the Force.
Why the fuck does it have to be about gender and?
But that's why we see with the new Acolyte, there is 0 male protagonist on purpose, because he has to be. And of course, the director is a queer female, identified as such, and say, I need people like me in those shows. So that's where. And that's what pisses me off with all this, is this is not about representation. This is about pushing my group in front of everyone's. So that's why you have to be careful with all that stuff. You think identity politics does not concern you. Maybe it doesn't with Star Wars. But those people, they don't want inclusion, they don't want equality. That's not true. They want equity. By that, what they mean is I want my group to be stronger than your group. We've seen that in history before. It does not turn out well. And in the meantime, you're killing off all our heroes. Can we geeks, nerds, men have all fun? We want to have fun. And I understand full blown that this is a very particular type of ideologue with the third and fourth wave feminist that actually has in mind to remove that from men as reparation, because we need to pay for our sins. And my answer to that is, fuck you!